So we're live now.
I would imagine they're going to be, well, maybe not, but
I muted the
Yeah. This is Frank Monroe, the Design Review Board Chairman. We're holding on for a couple more members to join, and also petitioners. So,
and Jean is on the call. So I'm gonna ask her to unmute and just get from her who's gonna be joining us on the call so I can promote them. Hi, Jean, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Who else is gonna be on the call?
Okay, myself and Greg Avinia from Wood, and the applicants from West Main Solar, which would be Scott Milnes and Steve Kerr.
Okay, good. They're all here.
Okay.
So yeah, we're just waiting on 2 more board members.
wait the minutes to.
Well, I think we do have.
We do have a quorum.
Yeah.
Depends how long you want.
It's up to you. We can always go forward and we have the quorum.
Yeah.
Frank, who's with us on our side? Is it, who's with us?
We've got Brendan, you, and Nick. So we do have a quorum, Leslie.
Okay,
And then we have 3 others that are representing the 2 petitioners tonight. Jean Haggerty, who's a landscape architect. I think is great.
I think she's a civil engineer.
Civil engineer, I'm sorry. And then Scott Lowndes, and then Greg,
Obinia?
yeah, that's it.
Is that on the, that's on the paperwork, right? Because
I'm not sure if all of them are listed.
I don't see him, no.
If you look at the participants in the Zoom app, you can grab their names off of there.
oh, yeah, I see it. Okay, thanks.
Well, I think we should go live.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready. Okay, it's 7:06 on my watch, and this is a meeting of the Portsmouth Design Review Board. I'd like to do a brief roll call of our members that are on the call this evening for the 2 petitioners we're going to hear. Let's see, we have Leslie Costa, who is the landscape architect I see. We have Nick Avery, who is a historical architecture, landscape architecture, if I got that right, Nick. And I see, is it Brendan Abbott? Brendan's a naval architect. So we've got a diverse group with us. I'm a general contractor, and we have a quorum. So I'd like to waive the minutes of last week's meeting and just get an aye for an acceptance by one of the members. Nick?
Aye.
Okay, Leslie seconds.
Aye.
So we'll accept the minutes from the last meeting. So we have two petitioners tonight, the same group, so to speak, but two different parcels, and they'll be treated as such. So the first one is West Main Solar, and the parcel that they would like to develop a ground-mounted solar photovoltaic facility is map 44, lot 15, zone light industrial and light commercial. Is there anybody on the call that would like to speak to the petition, please?
Can you hear me?
We got you here.
Okay, I'm just going to introduce myself because I own Equinox Renewables and Equinic Renewables that is working for the owner of the site, and then I'll let the engineers take it after that. My name is Scott Milnes. I live in Middletown, Rhode Island, and I've lived in Middletown since '84. We've been developing solar in Rhode Island for the last 5 years. We've developed over 50 products throughout Rhode Island of different sizes. And we've built a couple projects in Middletown in the past few years, one in Industrial Park and one over on West Main Road. These projects, we looked at these sites and we looked at prior history on the first site. And we designed these, to be sensitive to the, with the offsets, with the screening and the visibility of both projects. We know the project on the Navy project out on West Main Road that I've driven by many times is kind of an eyesore sitting there. And I know that's not the town's issue. It's the Navy base can do what they want. But, we tried to make these from the street where they're screened and there's be no visibility from the street. And then we tried to, within the sites, to make as large of setbacks as we can to minimize the visuals from the neighbors. So that's Equinox and that's me. And then we can go, any questions for me before I let the engineers take it?
Board members, anybody?
No, fine.
Everyone knows where the parcel is, I'm sure, right?
Yes, and I'm looking at the planting plan, so.
Okay.
So is solar production is considered light industrial?
That parcel, if you remember, was zoned light industrial always. So
Yeah, the question is solar, is a solar panel, energy production facility considered light industrial?
Just the solar project is permitted under the solar ordinance and light industrial and commercial to go through the planning board process.
Okay, so it's considered light industrial.
Yeah.
all of us have, I have a paper plan in front of me. Do our members have the plans for the first petition that they can look at?
Yes.
Through this. So if the engineer would like to begin.
Yeah, I'll let Gene take it from here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to give you a quick overview. If we need to pull up plans, we can do that as we go. But as you just got introduced to the job, we're talking about, you can see the commercial part on the left of what's showing your map is the part along West Main Road, and the back part is light industrial. So that whole site basically got some undue regulations that say we need to go through a major planning review. So this is the first step. It's about 18.5 acre total site. It's undeveloped at this point, mostly treed. And we're talking about going in there and clearing approximately 12 acres of trees with the solar array taking up about 8.2 acres of the site. New construction road coming in from West Main. The electrical systems will connect to an existing national grid pole that is right on West Main outside just to the left of where we plan the entrance road. Looking at your local regulations, there's a minimum buffer all the way around the site of 50 feet. We tried to extend it where we could, and there's just one spot that gets pretty close to the 50-foot line. We're trying to keep as many trees along the outside as possible. And there is an attachment D, as you've probably seen the landscape plan, which is to try to, any place where the screening may not be found adequate. I'll give them a second to get to D. It's way down there. That new screening would be added. And they're talking about doing a couple of different phases that have some evergreens, in some parts, understory, such as dogwoods and redbuds, and then some shrubs. And again, and mostly to screen the site from the road and from the abutters. The property slopes from pretty much from northeast towards the southwest. So you can see, if you can see the contours there, the high spot's kind of northeast, and it flows down towards the road and towards that southeast corner. We are in the process now of doing stormwater calculations, which you don't have yet, but there will be a need after clearing trees, putting the arrays in place of putting in some stormwater controls. And we would say they'd mostly be on that west side of the site in order to get off the slope and to provide the most protection we can from stormwater. The arrays is about total about 7,500 modules. It's pretty good size, over 3.1 megawatts of DC power. The site you're looking at there, you can see pretty much the top right-hand corner is the closest that the fence gets to the property line. Everywhere else we're more closer to 80 to 100 feet away from the boundaries. The design is solar panels that are they're on ballast and driven directly into the ground with about 6 foot, the typical piling about 6 foot deep. And the panels themselves have inverters on the top that go to transformers, and there's a transformer that's also inside the fence line. The fence will be chain link fence, security fence all the way around, and reach to a 12-foot access gate for security. And we'll make sure that we are following all the fire department regulations and making sure everything's wide enough for allowed turns and other things there. Take a look at, so the top left corner shows you typically what the solar panels themselves look like, and the tilt of the panels, typically 8 to 9 feet tall. It can be up to a total of 10 feet, depending on the tilt. And you can see that the view of the piles going into the ground, chain link fence there on the lower left, and erosion sediment controls, which of course would be placed early in the project so that we won't have any erosion leading the site. We're not planning on doing any massive grading or anything. We're trying to clear the trees, probably go in and do some minimum amount of grading to make sure we can put the panels in easily. And as I say, trying to disturb the area as little as possible. So I don't know what kind of questions you have. So instead of going into too much detail, why don't you ask me questions and we'll try to get everything answered for you.
Let me just start real quick. So our purview of the design review board is to look at the site plan and the plot plan to, look at the dimensions. Obviously, this isn't a street. There's no septic. Building elevations, there are none. So it really comes down to the landscaping plan and signage. And I understand you do have to have a sign of some sort. Is that right?
Right. There'll be a sign near the entrance in order to meet your time requirements, but it will have no marketing or anything like that on. It'll be built to the size that's required, and it'll just basically have emergency contact information on it.
Yeah, Gene, can I jump in? Any signage required at the site would be the utility requirements or town requirements. We wouldn't have any signs for the project except any requirements from the town or utility. And typically they're plaques from National Grid on equipment and poles, and the town requirement would be typically with the fire department if they wanted any plaques on any poles.
So you'd probably have a Knox box at the gate too, if it's like a key.
Yep, some towns have required through Knox box, some just has labeling. At the entrance of the site, when we come in, there'll be a couple of utility poles, and then there'll be a customer-owned low break pole. And typically that's for the fire department and the and National Grid, and that basically, once that's shut down, the whole entire site is shut down. That's typically what they will shut down. There's nothing really combustible within the site. We have 60 string inverters spread throughout the array that hangs on the back of the racks. So there's not much combustible materials. The fire department did go into the site.
And the fence doesn't have barbed wire, does it?
No, the fence would be per town requirement. The only thing we do is we lift the fence up. I think we lifted up 6. We typically lift it up 6 or 9. Is it 6 inches or 9 inches that DM wants us to do for habitat to go under the fence and through the site?
It's typically 6 inches, just
6
so
inches.
the squirrels and everything can get under there, and we're not obstructing any habitat.
Yeah, and we do a low maintenance grass within the site, and that's it.
I'd like to open to the other board members now. Any questions?
I have a question. When you decided on which plants to put where for buffer, for the residential, did you walk around and make sure that you have evergreens, blocking the view for each of the residents? Cause like in the wintertime, I would think you want more evergreens.
This site is tough to walk and it's thick, so we
Mm-hmm.
didn't get it getting far, but we looked at the site and this final planted species, I don't think he's defined species yet, but the intent is that, we left the 50-foot tree buffer and we want to fill where any screening would be required for the residences along that side.
Mhm.
So that's the way we looked at it. It's hard to get a visual from that 50-foot buffer in there at this point. So we're flexible on the plantings. Typically, most towns are going to require us to plant trees along the fence line of the site. And we felt that if we planted along the buffer line, that it's going to have a better impact, looking through the woods to see that versus pushing to the fence and seeing to the array at the fence.
Mhm.
So we're open to where and, what we need to do. And we know that these two, the south side and that east side is a very sensitive size. And we're trying to make that as, screen it as best possible in the areas that will need it.
Yeah,
I mean,
one thing
sorry.
I noticed in your, in what you submitted was that you were going in and cutting down existing trees and shrubs that were, I figure 15, 20 feet tall, because they would be having an impact upon the solar array being able to soak up all the sunlight.
Yeah.
But then the landscape plan you have has Juniperus virginiana, white pine, and pitch pine, which at maturity are 40 to 50 feet tall. So
Yeah.
if you're getting rid of things under 50 feet tall, why are you suggesting planting things that are going to be at maturity of 40? So
Yeah.
there are a number of evergreen shrubs and bushes, which from when I looked at your plans, are basically what you've submitted are going to be the understory plantings. So I think when we put together our final comments on this plan, because the base of it right now, it seems fine to me, but I just think that we'll just have some comments or suggestions, I should say, not comments, but suggestions that for your final planting plan, maybe use some of, X, Y, Z plants, because what your landscape architect proposed is counterintuitive to what you've already said. You want to get rid of tall plants, and they're saying we're going to put in tall trees,
Right.
and they want to put in tall trees. So, but
I don't think.
But on the base of it,
Yeah.
it seems fine to me.
Yep. I don't think we were trying to get this plan to get into the town here to look at, but this plan is still moving a little bit as far as the landscape.
Right.
And we know it's a moving in motion, and the planning board may want more. And obviously we want to do what's right for the screening over there.
Right.
I'm looking at the plan right now. Is the light the light green shaded area that has the little cross hatch on it,
Yeah.
is that grass and
That's-
that's gonna
that-
stay open?
That would be a low maintenance grass, and then the darker green would be just a cut area, which typically is not gonna be grass. It would be the existing growth would stay in that darker green area.
Okay, yeah,
When we
so it's
cut
like
out-
70 feet off the fence, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. I mean, yeah, I'd say for like, I mean, it's a nice list of plants. I would just say wherever you're going to use the evergreens, the American holly, I would probably just not use those if you're gonna block a neighbor because they're
Yeah.
gonna take forever, you know,
Yeah.
and they're so expensive to get. So,
Yeah.
um,
And this site is a lot more, the other site we're gonna look at next, we walked that site, we looked at that site, we can see it much better. This site is not as easy to get in there and see what's going on at the 50-foot buffer.
yeah.
And the
I
last
just
project,
wanted to can I make a comment on that? That area between the fence line and where the cut line is, we're just gonna cut the tall trees in that area. We're still gonna leave all the understory. So all the
Mhm.
shrubs in that whole area are still gonna be there.
Okay.
So I don't know if that was clear on the drawings.
Mhm.
So that, that stuff is still, could be 6, 7, 8 feet tall through that whole area. We would just go in
Okay.
and selectively cut the tall trees.
Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
we're concerned that area about shading to the array, so that's why we could leave everything below 8 feet, just take the bigger stuff out.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just a conceptual review. So obviously, you're gonna come again before our board, I guess. You'll leave the stormwater plan.
I thought our plan would be to go through you for recommendations and then go to the planning board next, but I'm not sure if the process, because we're in the process of submitting the DEM, so we won't have that information, when we go to planning board.
Mike?
Yeah, I have this as the conceptual, down as the conceptual plan. I thought Gina and I agreed on that before, just because also this is the first solar array, that's first 2 solar arrays that are going through under our new ordinance. As you know, there's been some contention, especially with this first site. So we really wanted to make sure we were thorough and had a good idea of what's going to be needed exactly for buffering each kind of view corridor for the abutting properties.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea before we go. This project, this first one's going to go to the planning board, and then they'll review it as a major plan. Technically, this could go, the next step could go to the planning board for master plan review, and then come back here in between the master plan review and the preliminary plan approval. I think that's what we is.
Yeah.
And
that's
we would be required that DM approval for the after master to go back for preliminary.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah, and this, just on a note, the prior project that came on this site, the product was 50 feet from the property line. So it's we feel like that we pushed up, to 150 and created these buffers that the first project didn't have any of this, was very close.
I think that's because you're putting a solar array in a residential neighborhood across from a school. I mean, it's just weird zoning.
No, this isn't,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, this is a commercial industrial. It's not residential, but it is
Yeah,
in a
no,
residential.
I
Yeah,
understand the way the
yeah.
town zoned it, but that, I mean, well, if it was industrial, then push it right up to the minimum boundary, right? I mean,
You could. Yeah.
what are the minimum boundaries?
They are 50 feet under your solar permit.
Yeah, so make them 50 then.
I would just, to err on the side of caution, I would just, where you are like basically all, like, I think it's the southeast corner and the east property line. Wherever there's a deciduous tree, the supplemental native understory trees, I would just make those evergreen. So when they're looking straight out of their house in the winter, there's no chance that they will see solar rays, and then at least you're covered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe just move the other trees into those little blank spots, because they're gonna get irritated, and at least if you actually plant, they can't say that you
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, and
try
we're,
to
and
cover it.
we're, and we're good with planting evergreens in those sight lines.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so I just go back and just clarify. So from Mike, what you said, so we were going to go to the planning board next at this level with what we have. We'll make any suggested changes. And that's the next meeting is April 14th. And then on the next level, we'll come back to you again with updated information. And we'll also have, at that point, have more information from RIDEM and any other environmental issues we need to clarify.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any design guidelines for the town of Portsmouth related to solar panel projects?
You do have a standalone solar ordinance. So yeah, the solar ordinance, it basically supports what you have at zoning, in your zoning ordinance anyway, but it basically requires that buffer of 50 feet. But it doesn't have anything specifically on design locations or depth or height. I mean, height is, I guess, one of the 10 feet height limit is one thing that's there, but there's not a lot of specifics on the design side. That's just covered by your development review requirements.
We do have a set of guidelines from DEM for the stormwater and like we were talking about with the spacing of the fence above grade. And we're following all of that in addition to the round stormwater manual for how we're arranging.
I'm sure you're following all the guidelines that are in place. I guess the question might have more have been for Mike Asciola or Frank, who have a lot of experience with the design guidelines. Are there any design guidelines in the town that I'm not familiar with that would cover solar projects?
Unfortunately, the one solar farm that came before us last year never came around. That was settled in court. And the other one is on federal government property. So no, that's why Mike wants to make sure, the town wants to make sure that, when we approve this, we're setting a precedence here. So we want to do it right. But there's no other solar installations we have approved yet.
Yeah, there are standards within the solar ordinance, which is if you go to our municipal code online, it's within the zoning ordinance. It's right at the top is one of the new amendments. You can look through the design guideline or the standards in there.
And the standard's currently 50 feet from a residential property is acceptable per the current zoning?
It's a, hold on, let me just
Mike's pulling it
get
out
out the
right
information
now.
here.
I mean, if we're setting a precedent, I guess this has nothing to do with the petitioners. It has more to do with the planning department. But if we're setting a precedent, I mean, that's the number one issue to look at, obviously. And that seems like a really short amount of distance between a bunch of kids playing in a backyard and a solar manufacturing facility. And that I understand that might not be the concern of the design review board, but as you said, if we're setting a precedent, I would say maybe it should be.
So the setback, yard setback, it must be 30, minimum of 30 feet on all sides with a 30-foot vegetated buffer where abutting residential and town center zone districts and a minimum of 20 feet within the yard setback when abutting all other zones.
So that affects the Bittersweet Farm Road in the back there, right? That's
Yes.
residential, and then part of up to Russo Road, to the cul-de-sac on Russo Road, that's zoned industrial. And then those plots behind there are residential as well. Mike, right?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the,
He's Mike pulling up the zoning map, yeah.
to the east and to the south are where the residentially zoned parcels are.
So that puts them at 30 feet clear plus 30 feet of buffer, so that's 60 then, Mike.
Well, no, it's, so the setback has to be 50 feet and the buffer has to be 30 feet of that 50.
Oh, yeah, right, okay. That's 60. Any more questions from the board members? Is there any interested parties or abutters that would like to speak at this point?
Yeah, there's no other attendee on the,
Okay, Mike's checking that. So, the planning board, you're going to the planning board the 14th of April. The following Monday is the 19th. You could possibly come back before the board if I can get a quorum with everybody. You know,
Excuse me, do we want to come back after master before preliminary, once we have the DEM information all in hand? Because I think that would be the next step, would all be the stormwater concerns and issues, and it'll be the landscape and plan would obviously be update with any concerns.
um,
I don't know if we'll have anything different the day after planning board than we do now.
they're gonna need time if they have to revise any.
Okay. So just looking at the calendar, then we're running into we're trying to keep our meetings on Mondays for different reasons. Would be the 26th of April,
I think that's a town council meeting.
and that's a town council meeting.
Yes.
And there's not another Zoom camera in.
So we've run it off the same account.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So
May 3rd would probably be the best.
May 3rd.
Okay, we could shoot for May 3rd.
Okay, so will Leslie and in the report or the minutes of tonight's meeting with the first petition, if you would like to make your recommendations, maybe with Nick, over the landscaping and how you want to describe that, that's really the only thing that I see that, you know, the
Mhm.
signs are the signs, so we're not gonna change that, and that's pretty much it, on the first petition then.
Okay,
All right, Leslie, you got all that?
yep.
Thank you. So the second petition, since we'll move on, is obviously the same company, West Main Solar. It's for map 30, lot 8. It's zoned R20, and it's the same premise for ground mounted solar panels. We've already got a roll call and quorum, so I'll let the engineer speak to that, please.
Yeah. Right, so I could just say quickly, obviously this project will take a different path because it will go to the zoning board first, I think, correct? I think.
Yeah, we need
that
a
would be
special use. We need a special use permit for this one. Yes.
Yeah. And this site here, Gene can get into it, but this site here, there's not as many residences around it, but there are residences there. But this site here, we walked the site with the landscape architect, and there's a lot of plantings on site that we thought that would be able to be repurposed and retransplanted on the buffers to create, good buffers on the southwest corner of the site. So when we get into the landscape thing, we can talk about that. But Gina, if you want to go, you can go.
Yeah, so not that much different from a design standpoint. A vacant lot, but there is some spoils sitting on the site that need to be cleared out. They're just mostly some rock and some construction materials. But you can see that the middle of the site is actually pretty open, so we don't have as much tree clearing here. The site altogether is a little bit larger at about 24 acres. In this site, there are wetlands along the right-hand side, closest where the highway turnaround is. You can see the wetlands line. We are adjusting that line a little bit. We've got an update on that that we're working on, but basically, same general area. We're going to need a RIDEM wetlands permit for working here. we need to stay off the edge of the wetlands by at least 50 feet. So we'll make sure we do that. You can see that again, off of West Main Road, new access road coming in there to access the site will look similar to the other one, 20-foot wide with 12-foot gate. And this property, because it is residential zoned, in your regulations, this needs a special use permit. So from zoning, so the process is a little bit slightly different to go through this. Well, we know that based on the preliminary review at the planning board in January, there were certainly some concerns about both screening and stormwater at the site. So the screening in the landscape plan, which we can go through, is as Scott said, we were able to walk the site and landscaper really look at this because there's not as much tree clearing in the site. Stormwater is not much of a problem because it actually drains from the north west side to the east towards the wetland. We will need some stormwater controls on that side, but they're not headed towards anybody's homes or their backyards. So we'll make sure that the drainage on this is taken care of so that it's away from the homes and more towards the existing wetland. I think the total area, I think we're clearing for here about 11 acres total, and only 2 or 3 acres are actually treed. Most of it's open space, and the area of the arrays themselves will be about 7.5 acres, which is about 40% of the site, just under that. Again, we're going to the same idea. I mean, the panels will look similar. They will have the inverters on them, go to transformer and out to the national grid pole on West Main. And as I say, we'll really try to maximize the screening in this area to make sure that we really can't see this from either the road or from the neighbors' homes. So, questions?
Board members, I don't have anything right now. I mean, if it's going to be the same fencing, DL requirements, you say the stormwater drains naturally with the grade, the topography now towards the wetlands, same gate, same sign. I can't see anything different. That's one of those sites that is walkable. I don't know if anyone desires, we could try to find out. I know Alan Shears owns it, but if anyone feels the need to walk it, I mean, we could probably get an okay to do that. Board members, I've been over there a long time ago, so I know what.
I went over today and there was like a wire, like a gate. So
Yeah, that gate is kind of sitting there with some stones holding the post up because it broke off. So
I wasn't gonna I wasn't gonna go in there and back out.
if anyone on this board or the planning board or any board wants to walk the site, Mike can reach out to Gene and I can meet him there, or Steve can meet him there because we're both on the island. So we'll be happy to take anyone on the site walks. Like I said, like I said, all these plantings that are here are going to come out of the north end of the site, which the landscape architect looked at.
I'm just wondering, not that really matters from the highway, but from this plan, it seems like you're sitting up higher. Are you higher than the highway, or is it sloping?
It's pretty Gene can have the grades, but there's a big pile of fill in the middle that we have to flatten out, which makes it seem high when you look in there. It seems when you walk in there, it's almost gonna be flat when we're done. Going down to the slope of the wetland.
Okay. Let's see.
And we jogged the path coming in, the interconnection path and the access road, because instead of having a straight shot in, we jogged the poles and went north and right. So when you look into this site, you'll have screening of the array from the road.
Okay, yes.
That's why we did those plantings in front of the, straight in, you'll see some plantings right there.
Yeah.
And the access road to get in is heading north, and then it does a jog into the array at the top.
Okay, so you don't feel like there's a need to buffer, just add some evergreens on what side is that? It's like on the east side where you're coming in from the highway. It's not like you're going to be staring at like the solar.
I don't think you'll see much visual unless you stopped and looked in. I don't think you'll get because you can hardly see the entrance when you drive by. You have to look for the entrance when you drive by now. So
yeah.
you'd have to pull in and stop probably to see it, but I think driving on the road there, it's a pretty fast road there. I don't think there's much visual.
No, I'm talking about Route 24, that loop
The
that
loop.
goes right behind it.
Oh, over there. That's pretty heavy over there. I'm not sure
Okay.
what could be seen on that side.
Yeah. I'll have to- I can't remember.
There's all the marshes down there, right off the
Yeah.
highway, and then scrub trees and everything. And I was actually just there the other day coming back from shopping, and you can't even see the property from that loop.
Yeah, because which one is that? Which exit is that? I'm trying to remember.
That's the
One.
loop that, yeah, that's a loop
Oh.
where you're going fast around the corner and you gotta concentrate so you don't go
Yeah.
off that loop.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So like down when you're coming up the hill to St. Phil's, like Headley. Is that
It's
that one?
Turnpike
No,
Avenue.
before that.
Oh,
Turnpike
okay.
Avenue.
Yeah.
When you're coming down 24, like from Fall River off the bridge, the first exit is for
Boyd's
Um,
Lane or whatever.
the Island
Oh.
Park.
Yeah.
And then the next one is the
Boyd's
loop.
Lane.
And this little loop right there is the one that you come off under Turnpike Avenue and it points you way to Clements Market.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's right after the wind turbine.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to pay attention and not go off the road.
Yeah, it's all the back scrub that they have on their plans that is hiding it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So if there's no sort of landscape, suggestions for this plot, you don't really need to see anything else. I mean, unless you guys really want to walk it and look at it, I can't see the need for any recommendations on the landscape part of it. Nick, Leslie, Brendan, how do you guys feel?
I just think for the first plan with, like I said, they had in their plans that things 12 feet or above are going to be cut down, and then, like I said, they recommended putting in white pines and pitch pines, which go to a maturity of 40 feet. I got some suggestions for things they could use that are below that would still end up being good screening materials. So I'll talk with Leslie about that and or email her, and we can just put that into the recommendations. But on the whole, I don't have a problem with this. It seems that the applicant is doing the right thing, and fine, go forward.
Yep,
But
we can't do much wrong considering what the Navy project looked like and where they kind of positioned that one.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So
Horrible. It makes you look really good. You've got like a good start, no matter what you do.
Could be better.
So I need to ask if there's any concerned citizens of butters on the call. Mike is checking. And we don't have any. So in summation of both petitions, right now, you've got the first one that's got to go to the planning board for master plan review, and then come back to us. By then you'll have your DEM, your soil erosion plan done. Any suggestions from our board will be added at that point. The second parcel is zoning board related.
Yeah, it will actually come back here for design review board review, and then to the planning board for advisory opinion, and then the zoning board is the permitting authority.
Yeah.
The final review.
So do you want to keep both petitions on for like May 3rd? Right?
Yeah, it works as long as the time, the timeline allows it.
Right.
So, yeah. So
So did
Mike,
you
what
say
I-
the,
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
I'm just trying to find out the path. I know the other project goes through master. Where does this project go to master next and then zoning and then preliminary? Or does this go to zoning?
So that it actually just comes back, it comes back here for the regular, review. This was a concept review, so the normal design review board review, and then it goes to the planning board for the advisory opinion.
Okay, so they both go to the planning board next,
Well, actually, this one will come back.
both projects?
Yeah, well, the other one,
Come back.
you can go to you can do your master plan review and then come back here in between the master plan and the preliminary. This project here has to come back here for the normal design review board review, then go to the planning board for the advisory opinion, and then it goes to the zoning board for the final.
So why would this one come back to this board if the board's gonna wait till it gets, wouldn't it wait till the opinion from the planning board and then come back here before zoning?
So this board is advisory to the planning board. So you just with I mean this is a new process. So
I'm not trying to push the project either way. I'm just confused of the process, knowing what the other one was, of why we can. Well,
I'm confused on what we're advising on, to tell you the truth, as well.
Well, the two parts that we sort of oversee are out of these two petitions is landscaping and signage, and signage is a mute point. So it really comes down to landscaping. There's no structures. The guidelines for the setbacks are what they are. So they've met those. Fencing and screening falls under our purview as far as screening goes, not necessarily fencing. But I mean, to me, I know it seems like an extra step that they've got to come back to us. But if that's the way it has to go, it has to go, I suppose. It's unfortunate. I mean, we could try to, if you had your stuff together on the second, to have a design review board meeting after zoning, right?
the zoning has to go
It's less. So
wouldn't this have to go to master for a recommendation to the zoning board first? I mean, wouldn't it have to go to the planning board? Typically, we go to a planning board for a recommendation to the zoning board before we go to zoning.
it goes from the design review board review to the planning board for advisory opinion and the site plan review. And then it goes to the zoning board for because they're the permitting authority for the special use.
Okay, so could we go to the planning board next for the advisory opinion, knowing the design review board has looked at this and nothing's gonna change for us to come back to them?
Well, I mean, if nothing's gonna change, I guess you can go right to the only issue is this was advertised as a concept hearing.
we could try, if the members could make it, we could try to squeeze in another meeting, depending on the schedule for town hall, Mike. Because really on the second petition, all we're looking at is a review of the landscaping. That's our only issue. And I think Nick and Leslie could probably wrap that up in a couple days. A phone call and looking at stuff. So
And then just take those suggestions and respond to them. That's the, your next submission.
yeah,
Support.
yeah. You all want to do it that way, Nick, Leslie, Brendan?
Yeah,
Yeah, so am I actually typing up the advisory opinion for the planning board like usual, or are we just doing like a email with suggestions?
I would do it similar to the style that's done for the planning board, but just it's just suggestions, and recommendations to the applicant.
Okay, and
It wouldn't be an opinion because it wasn't advertised as, it was conceptual, not, so I understand.
so just to go summarize real quick, I know the fencing had, I don't remember the height of the fencing, but it was 6 to 9 inches below on the bottom reveal for animals, right?
6 foot tall. Yeah.
6 foot tall, did you say?
Yes.
Okay,
6 inches underneath, right?
6 inches. Yeah. 6 inches clearance.
and 6 foot tall. And then the sign, it was basically just a small sign to delineate, and that's pretty much it, right?
The signage would be as required by the utility and the local fire department.
Okay.
To be plaques on the poles and the equipment.
Okay.
It seems, Mike, it seems like kind of a waste but I understand what's happened. So we could have a quick meeting to knock this out, be time to advertise it again. So I have to post it again with the Secretary of State, post it 2 times, 2 places in the town, and notify the abutters. I don't know how long that's gonna take on my end.
Yeah, I mean, we would rather go that way than have an appeal toward us to create a problem later. So if you guys need to schedule another meeting and do it, we'd rather take that path than to have something not right.
What does it look like for town hall?
So the first month, we have reserved for the first Monday of every month.
Right,
And then after that, it's kind of, we have to look what's on there. It gets a little complicated this time of year.
Yeah.
With the budget, hearings,
yeah.
so.
What about the 29th of April, which is Monday? Or excuse me, of March?
I think I can make that. I might be down in Maryland, but I should be home, hopefully.
Okay,
Uh,
How much time do the abutters need for a notification?
We actually do, we don't, do abutter notifications.
Oh, you don't do that. You just post it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's March 29th, you said?
yeah, Monday, March 29th.
It appears it's available. Yeah, it looks like it's available.
Okay, so that would take care of the second petition, but the first petition still has to go to the the planning board, excuse me, on April 14th, right, Mike? And then come back to us. Yeah, so we're still gonna have 2 meetings. We would have one March 29th and one on May 3rd. So, but this gets us, so they don't have to come back a 3rd time for petition 2. If you guys know what I'm talking about. It makes sense, guys? Everybody?
No, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but it's the path we gotta go.
Change the rules.
So March 29th, they're coming back with changes, or May 3rd, they're coming back with changes?
So both.
Both.
Petition 2 would come back March 29th. Petition 1 would come back May 3rd. And this alleviates having a 3rd meeting, sort of in the chain of approvals.
Okay.
So we have time to post, obviously, the 29th and May 3rd and get everything done.
Okay.
If you guys can have us on before the 20, well, we need to have an opinion soon, or a recommendation out. And then I can post the town meetings for the 29th and the 3rd of
Okay.
May. Okay,
So, and just a question to clarify, so what do you need back from us for your meeting on the 29th on site 2?
probably Leslie and Brendan want to review the landscape plan. That's really the only thing. We don't need DEM stormwater on this. You've already delineated wetlands, and that's where it flows to. That's why there's wetlands.
Right.
So really, it's just the landscaping plan. And that clears us up and to not have a second meeting on parcel 2.
Do we need to submit a new application form or anything, or more formal?
You can use the same form.
Okay,
Yeah. And May 3rd's a ways out. You still have a hurdle or so to go over there with planning, so with the master plan review.
okay.
Okay. If there's not anything else, I mean, I think we can adjourn at this point. No other questions, concerns, problems?
I don't think so.
I appreciate everyone's time tonight, and so we'll get that, not opinion, but comments out, parcel 1 shortly, and so you have that for the May 3rd hearing, which is a way down the road, and then in the meantime, we'll get something out on the 29th as well on recommendations for parcel 2 landscaping.
Yeah, and that should be minimal anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Everyone's
Thank
time.
you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.